Hey, Stoney here. Welcome to an episode of Mecha Academy, where we analyze games from fans to become better at Mechabellum. If you have a game that you can't figure out, make sure to submit them to the Discord channel, link down in the description, and tagging Stoney. Alright, let's go. At the bottom here, we have Deadly Dillweed playing as a lead specialist. He's up against Skywind playing as an aerial specialist. And right off the bat, we have the Assault Marksman technology. This is quite an exciting tool. Not only he took Assault Marksman, he sold one of his Mustangs, took the tower upgrade, and took the loan. So this is a huge investment right off the bat in round one. Now, very luckily for Skywind, the play from Dillwood from round one, and there's no way of him knowing. He's trying to do a cheeky play by putting these very forward Stormcallers, hoping that there's not going to be any units in front of the tower. In a normal game, that would have worked, right? In a normal game, you want to put your marksman sort of on the line to the tower here, and you typically want to put your Mustangs behind the tower in these positions. So the Stormcrawler could actually just walk up and shoot missiles at the tower, debuffing it, and then shoot at everything else. But it's a very unlucky start for him. That year's opponent not only went for Assault Marksman on turn one, he borrowed and sold the Mustang and went really hard on the Assault Marksman on the line here. So not very lucky, but that's okay. Assault Marksman, typically there's a lot of ways to stop the Assault Marksman from scaling. And let's see if we have the correct play here. All right, round two. Now, one thing you'll notice that I am playing on a closed beta server. I am testing out this new replay feature, which is why you see like new units that's coming in here. I hope this is okay. I hope this is not going to cause any problems with the game's seed, but let's see. All right, round two, we have more Stormcallers, and both players took the Rhino. So we have Stormcallers, Rhino that are just coming right at each other. Against Assault Marksman, Stormcallers aren't really that great of an idea. The reason being, one, Stormcallers aren't... one is that they have this minimum range, so sometimes the marksmen do like to walk forward, and also the other thing is that the marksmen do have splash, which means that if you are at the range, you can actually kill multiple units. But it does look like this in this particular game, the Stormcallers work pretty well, while the marksmen were just a little too close to each other because they're in a row. Normally, when you want to play marksman, you want to play marksman at least 4 squares, if not more, apart. So that way, you're not getting bombarded by Stormcallers like this. Yeah, so interesting play on here on round two. All right, round three. Let's take a look at the board here. Both players skipped. We're still dealing with these marksmen. We're still dealing with them with the Stormcallers, which is slightly jarring. There's a marksman flank coming in from the back. Currently, there's no response to it yet, but I hope very soon we'll put something down here. The Rhino isn't a terrible unit against Assault Marksman as long as you can get close to them. So when you're up against Assault Marksman, they're going really hard. There's a couple things you can do. The first thing you can do is you try with the EM route, right? So you disable the Assault Marksman with a EM. I personally use a lot of sledgehammers with EM. One is because sledgehammers naturally are a little bit more resilient against the marksman because of their higher health, and also because it has 4 unit models, so sometimes they do shoot at different marksmen, disabling them at the same time. And then 3 is that once the marksmen are disabled, they become a regular marksman, which gets 2-shotted by a tank of the same level. So I like to use EM sledgehammers. EM arc lights are also pretty good. EM marksman or EM phoenixes, they're on the table, but I don't usually run them as a direct counter to Assault Marksman because of the firing rate, right? Because the first shot that's coming from your EM Marksman is not going to kill an Asman. It's going to disable it, and then you have to wait for the next shot to kill, which is fine. I just find it a little less robust versus just like an EM Sledgehammer if that's my main source of EM. Another way to deal with Marksman is hackers. Hackers are really good, very powerful. Once you hack the Marksman, especially if your hackers has EM, is like hard counter, because if your hacker has EM, the moment it locks onto a Marksman, it disables the 500% health, making it extremely easy to hack. And once it's hacked, it removes the EM effect and turn it back to a regular Asman. So extremely powerful combination. And while you're doing both strategies, one way to kind of keep Marksman busy is just to give them a lot of chaff. Shield Defense works great. Crawlers that are split also works great. Marksmen do have a relatively slow fire rate, like 3 seconds per shot. So if you're able to split your crawlers, let's say behind your stone crawlers, as they walk forward, it's going to take them extra shots to kill that same group of crawlers. All right, looking at Skyven, he's going really hard. He has range already. We're only at round 4, so already has range. He has multiple marksmen that's leveled. It's getting a little bit dangerous, right? Because once the marksman gets level 3, then they can start one-shotting your tanks. They can start one-shotting your arc lights. And it just kind of snowballs from there. So if you're not really prepared for that before round 3, that's going to be a bit of a problem. So later on, at the second half of this video, I'm going to try to take over, which is the new feature in the next patch that's coming in tomorrow, take over some of the turns and see if I could make a difference. So there's a couple of turns. The first turn I would say would probably be the last round, round 4, or probably the round before. Round 4 is important because, as you can see here, we already have a level 3 marksman. So my goal here is, how do I put something down in round 4 that stops the marksman from leveling? The anti-missile device is curious. I'm not sure why that's there. Yeah, I just keep adding marksman here, I guess. All right, more missiles, more marksman. The anti-missile device is kind of a waste because right now you're not really holding on to this side of the board. So if you lose this side of the board, you lose the device, and that's 100 supplies that you're not going to get back. I would much rather put this into either upgrade to your fangs or just get more crawlers. Oh no, this rhino ran away. There's another problem with the rhino, is that if you have units in front of it doing damage, it will actually just run away and do something else. So that's not very good. All right, we're at round 6. Now let me just check the integrity of this replay real quick, making sure that we're not playing with a bad seed. Okay, it looks like we're still on track. It's always a little finicky when you have new beta versions of things. I think we're missing a few things, but that's okay. I think mostly the board has been more or less intact, and we're seeing the game evolve. I think we're missing like a tech here, so I'll keep checking because it's in beta mode to just make sure that we're staying true to the replay here. All right, round 6. I'm going to slow this down a little bit and just talk a little bit more about what is going on. This is the round I feel is when things start to really get out of control. And there are a few major problems that Blue is facing. Even though he hasn't taken a lot of damage because it's the Assault Marksman and they don't actually deal a lot of damage to your health. But there are a couple problems. So problem number 1 is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 level 3 marksmen with range And now with quick reload, these 5 marksmen are going to kill so many units so quickly that you cannot simply rely on brute force. If you do not disable their technology quick enough, you're not going to have a good time with this. The Stormcaller is actually great because the marksmen currently are bundled. However, the problem right now is that the Stormcallers are going to get picked off fairly quickly, right? I do like the counterplay right now with the Stormcaller EM and a Launcher Overload. Launcher Overload is great because you don't need a lot of range. Your marksmen are coming to you. Marksman right now deals 110. Your Stormcaller still outranges the marksman with 140. And if you can shoot faster, that just means you get to disable them faster, right? Which is great. But what isn't great is, one, right now there are so many level 3 marksmen, so they'll just kind of walk you over. There isn't enough chaff, right? At a certain point, chaff clear is super important it's always being important, but in this case it's super important for the marksman because without chaff they get disabled by your Stormcallers, and once they're disabled they're not that useful anymore, right? So red understands it. Red adds in the level 3 raids to help with the chaff clear. The rhinos, they're not going to be doing so much here, and let's start playing the game, right? Let's just see how much the rhinos actually do. This rhino gets picked off. That rhino is going to get picked off in just a few seconds. The Stormcallers are still not hitting the marksman. We got one of them that's disabled, but everything else, well, 2 of them that's disabled, but everything else is still pretty much in the game. This raid here is causing another problem because blue doesn't have any anti-air whatsoever. So at this stage, you're really giving a lot of experience to these marksmen, right? And if I were to hazard a guess to what happens in the next couple rounds, if I were to play Aspen, a few things I like to do. So first I need to chaff up, then I need to anti-chaff, of course, because anything that marksman hits that's not a chaff is going to get great value. And then eventually I want to start putting down heavy HP or high HP units, maybe a couple fortress here that does nothing but tanking and create chaos. Oh my god, it's now quadruple attack marksman. So if you're quadruple attacking your marksman and you're if you're playing against something like this and you don't go all in on electromag, that's a huge problem. Okay, so we got level 2 melting point. With multi being, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think you're actually out damage these high level marksmen with double shot. Take this level 4 marksman, for example, 12,000 damage every 1.7 seconds. It takes about 5 seconds for the melting point to charge up to its full damage. So in 5 seconds, this guy would have done approximately 40,000 damage, and there's like so many of them. So I'm not entirely sure that these melting point, even if it's level 2 with 72,000 health, is going to survive. I mean, just look at the devastation on the front line, right? That rhino barely gets to do any damage. The flank completely fallen with the quadruple attack marksman, and of course with the quick reload, now marksmen fire as quickly as a arc light, so making them proficient at chaff clearing. Right? Yeah, just look at this melting point. Doesn't even get a shout out. Okay, let's keep going. Let's just see here. I think now we're kind of past the point of no return. Really, I think the pivotal moment was in round 4 and round 5, where you had a chance to stop that from happening. Fortress is being offered. Of course, I'm going to take Fortress with shield. Anything that delays any sort of damage coming to these marksmen, the better. They don't even need more marksmen right now. They just kind of get levels every round. Forge gets picked, shield defense gets picked, everything to stop the enemy units from getting to this marksman. Rhinos doing no damage. This one did 351 damage for a level 2 rhino, and that is 300 resource that's doing nothing. that could have been just a crawler, and I would have done exactly the same function because they were just running up and getting shot at. Same thing here with this rhino with a heavy armor, not doing anything at all. We got a couple melting point. I'm going to say that these melting point are probably mispositioned because of the replay, so I'm just going to jump to the round, make sure that I have the right right replay set up here, because the seed is weird. Okay, so here it is. Here's the right replay. All right, so forts is still getting picked by our red player, which makes perfect sense. We have melting point now correctly positioned, which is great. However, yeah, let's see here. So you got 4 groups of chaff, one of which is going to get, well, 2 of which is going to get destroyed by the wraith. Your opponent's marksman has quick reload, which makes they themselves super great at chaff clear. You don't have the energy to bust through all these fangs because at some point your fire badgers are going to start to die to these marksmen, which means once they're dead, all these fangs are going to be left over. A great tower capture here though with this rhino, which means that's going to win you the round maybe. And that unit depends on how long this melting point lasts, which is not very long. Okay, so you're not going to get this round. All right, let's keep watching. I'm just going to skip ahead a couple rounds because I don't really think there's much you can do past this point. Let's just see. We can speculate, but I don't know if there's anything you can do past this point. Yeah, very difficult, especially now you've already invested into a lot of these things. Okay, look at the board here, right? Remember back in round 4, I talked about how you have to hard counter with some sort of EM. Right now, look at this board. Where do you see is EM? We have 1 squad of Stormcallers here. We have 1 squad of Stormcallers here. And that's it. And these Stormcallers aren't even getting to the marksman. They're getting stuck on the fortresses. They're getting stuck on the fangs. And then once they get through the fortresses and fangs, they're getting shot off by the marksman, right? So let's just watch the rounds here. Napalm could be a good option. So additional Stormcallers, I think that's great. Range, because they're multi-beam, so they're extremely low range. Alright, even more forts and now coming in at the flanks, and these are going to be pretty devastating because forts at close range actually do decent damage against melting point. The advantage of melting point is this range is able to lock on before the forts can get in range and get that 5-second charge up, and once it's charged up, it's going to do pretty well against the forts. Surprisingly, we actually got the ring here, but the next round we're going to have forts staring right at them with the shield bubbles. So I'm just gonna jump here a little bit, just make sure I have the right setup. Okay, so round 10. So we still got the forts. We got the melting point. Right now, you know, we're looking at possibly a 1-round close if blue cannot win this round. EM Barrage is actually really good here because it disables quite a few of these shields, and once the shields are disabled, your fire badgers can get to work, right? So anything that can help getting rid of the HP in front of the marksman allows your EM units, which in this case Stormcallers, to deal with the rest of his assmen. Forts took Rocket Punch. This is actually an ingenious move. They're so close to you, and they know their chaff clear is so good, which means by the time you're punching through the shield, the only units that's left that are your carry units, your fire badgers, your Stormcallers, which means forts with punch, as long as they're not being disabled by EM, can actually do a lot of damage to you. Alright, now looks like this one with the 4 melting point getting charged up right off the bat is actually working. So let's see what happens to round 11. All right. Round 11, we got a couple options here. EM Barrage is picked. I think it's a great option. More crawler, more chaff is added. But this is what's gonna stop you, right? But you don't need me to tell you how to defend against this, right? This is a luck of a draw. If you know how to deal with this side of the battle, then you're just unlucky. That's all I can say. You're just unlucky. You got triple level 3 steel balls trying to get to your tower while you're busy defending here. That's just very unlucky. If there's anything to learn from this particular experience, is probably next time put oil here, put a couple chaff down here, and then you'll be okay. But let's focus on the main action here. Right now, we're actually in a pretty decent position. I love the absorption module on a level 4 melting point, especially with multi-beam. This guy is going to live forever as long as it can lock on to some of these high-level marksmen. This one down here with the laser sight, I think it's going to do fairly well as well, as long as it can get locked on. Okay, so it looks like right now, the last round, the big deciding factor is this steel balls. But this is not something you can actively train for. I think you really just have to be mindful that this is something that could happen, especially in the final round of the game. But let's talk about Aspen in general, right? Like, how do you deal with Aspen? When Asmens have low levels, early giants can be a very effective way of dealing with them. So we talk about having early EM. We talk about having distractions in the form of crawlers. But also, we can look at early giants, because if they can't kill the giants effectively, they cannot get levels. And even when they do kill the giants, the experience is not being spread out among multiple Asmen, which means only one of them gets leveled. Right, Aspen gets really scary if you let them scale, and they're just mediocre if you keep them at level 1 or level 2. They're not very great at chaff clear compared to some of the specialists. They're not very great at single unit damage if their level is fairly low. And because they sacrifice so much range, they can't even comfortably shoot from the back lines and gain experience. So you actually can outscale them very quickly by putting down things like Fortress with shields. All right. Multi-beam with EM, I think is a great option in the later game. It is a little dangerous with Fortress. But with EM, you essentially destroy their shield as well as their punch. So now these fortresses aren't doing nearly as much. They're still doing great as a meat shield, but they're not doing nearly as much. Right? So EM is very important here. But let's go back to round 4, which is right here. And let's see, is there any way that we can stop these Aspen from leveling, right? So if I were to play round 4, what would I do? So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to take over blue and see what happens in round 4. Okay. I can put it like right here. Yeah. So maybe like right there, and then we'll be able to get marksman, probably even further down because they're walking, and then you get more fans. Maybe like right here. All right, so you get some marksman. This side you can defend pretty comfortably, so you just get a tower upgrade. This side, you'll need something to get rid of the rhino. You can put down your own rhino here to defend, or you can simply do more chaff knowing that the next turn you're going to go giant. Right, that's another option. Level 2 crawlers are actually very deadly here. So I would not mind at all and just be very annoying with crawlers everywhere. So in this case, I'm going to try something like this. This rhino here is actually going to do a lot of work on all of these marksmen here. And then you have money left over, right? So first, orbital jab. Okay, that's that cluster. All right, you got your flank secured. Rhino over here, great. All right, gets the tower. All right, how's the experience on the marksman? Okay, still got tons of units left over. Getting disabled. And gets rid of the marksman, right? And when you play this type of game, if you see the battlefield, right, you didn't even spend all your money, because what that allows you to do next turn is you can then sell Stonecaller, put down Fortress, maybe if you loan, right, maybe you can put down 2 fortresses, but chances are you probably just get put down 1. And then you can stop the aspirin from scaling too hard. So that will be my recommendation from round 4. Right. Let's just take a look at that round one more time and see how you played it. The most important thing about stopping Asman is 1, get rid of their technology, and 2, prevent them from leveling. And one of the more straightforward way of doing that is just having giants early on, because having giants limits their ability to get levels across the board. They'll probably get leveled on one of them by killing a giant, but not every single one. And to get there, you'll need to make sure that you have enough chaff to distract them, as well as some sort of EM to get rid of the tech. Right now there's only 2 tech, but if you can stop the level, they may not even tech further. And if they do, then they're just wasting a lot of money. Then you can just outscale them by putting even more fortresses. At the later rounds, right, once they get 4 levels, that's really difficult to play. Now I'm just out of curiosity, I do want to try one of the later rounds and just to see how I do. All right, let's take a look at the final round and see if we can swing this in your favor. So earlier we talked a lot about stopping marksmen before they snowball too hard. But right now, let's just see if there's a way to get rid of the final round and talk about some of the mentalities of predicting what your opponents are going to do. All right, looking at these 4 units, War Factory is not going to be very good for your opponent. You already have so many melting points with multi-beam. Level 1 War Factory is simply not going to cut it, right? Your opponent can go Vulcan. Vulcan is great. You can actually put Vulcan like somewhere in the back line here with Firebomb. So that is going to clear your front line. And once the front line is cleared, your Fortress with Rocket Punch is going to hurt. And of course, your Marksman is going to get straight into the big units. So Vulcan is possible. The answer to Mass Vulcan is just a shield. Add a lot of shield, protect the first volley, and you should be good to go. Phoenix and Steel Balls, both are deadly at this flank here. Right? Steel Balls can be mobile beacon to the tower. Phoenix, you can just put 2 Phoenixes down, drop a missile. Phoenix will take down a Rhino very quickly, and then we'll go down to the tower. So for your defense, you need to think about 2 things. 1, how do I protect this tower? And 2, how do I protect from the Vulcans? In terms of your units, you could probably choose Vulcans. I think Vulcans with Firebomb and Electromag to disable the shields is a great combination. Now remember, electromag does fire and arrive faster before the firebomb, so it could work really well. Let's see. Okay, so here's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to add some Vulcans here with firebomb. I'm going to take electromag on the melting point, and then I'm going to beef up the defense here. I think it's going to be a combination of double tower upgrades and fangs just to slow down the movement of the steel balls. It's a little tricky because there's like, you cannot kill the steel balls if they did decide to do steel balls, or if they did phoenixes. Phoenixes is arguably a little bit easier to counter, but steel balls is a lot harder to counter here. So instead of trying to build an army, which you won't be able to, we're trying to delay what's going to happen here as much as possible. All right, let's jump in and let's see if this works. All right, let's take the Vulcan because you don't have great chaff there. Let's level up these units. Let's put the Vulcan around. Okay, so just to help with the chaff clear here. Don't need the Rhino because it's terrible against both Phoenixes and Steel Balls. Do need a couple tower upgrades, and you do need to slow down the opponent somehow. Missile here. I'm gonna put one of you here. I'm gonna put one of you like this, so it kind of protects both sides. Mobile beacon. I'm going to see if I can save these crawlers. Alright, we're going to get the tower upgrades because they are really good. And we're going to put a shield here with temporary range. And we're also going to do a cheeky missile of our own, just kind of slow things down a little bit. And let's go. Alright, we got double missile. Very deadly. Okay, fire is working. And that allows our Vulcan to do a ton of damage. The units are distracted on the other side. Okay, so we got steel balls. I mean, they're still coming in, but I'm cleaning up here. Excellent. Alright, clean up on that side. That one melting point. Is it gonna get debuffed? Is it gonna get debuffed? Nope. Alright, getting lock onto the steel balls. Getting shot at, it doesn't matter. It has an absorption module. Alright, so what do we learn from this game? Well, can't let your marksman snowball by leveling. You have to stop them before they get too many attacks and too many levels. And also chaff. You gotta watch out your chaff. I think the last round, it's very difficult to predict something like this. You can try to imagine like what would happen. So in this case, most likely units are going to be steel balls or phoenixes with a mobile beacon to the tower. You're not going to win a fight here, but what you can do is to delay it because you were winning this side in the previous round. So you want to make sure, how do I win this side even harder? And how do I delay the opponents on the other side? So what I did is I added more chaff clear, heavy chaff clear in the form of fire Vulcan. And I added units here to defend against whatever he has, right? So I hope you enjoyed this game, and I will see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.